right in. So, everybody listening, hello, Kelly Swanson here, helping you master the art of connection and engagement through the power of story. Part of your story crafting training involves deep dives into several areas of the story writing and telling process. And today's deep dive is on the subject of humor. My training is designed to help you give your words more power by using story as a tool to impact and influence, connect and engage on a deeper level with your audience, your client, your market, and your world. And humor is definitely one way to connect with your audience. No question about it. People love to laugh. Funny videos and posts are shared more than anything else on social media. I always say that when we're looking at using our words to have more impact and influence, we got to see ourselves as salespeople. And because we're selling something, a truth, an awareness, our product, our service, whatever it is, no matter what your intent or your purpose, you're a salesperson. And the cardinal rule of sales, people buy from people they like, trust, believe, and feel like they know. So humor is not only something that entertains and delights and engages your listener, it's also something that, well, makes you likable. It creates rapport and it builds trust with your audience, no matter what your platform. So today I have invited 3 of my funniest women friends. These women use humor as a big part of their life, their career, and their brand, just like I do. We do not do funny by accident. We work on it diligently. We understand how much our ability to be funny affects how much we're booked and how much we get paid. So it is a big piece of each and every one of our brands on this call today. My first piece of advice to all of you listening is to find yourself a group of funny people to surround yourself with. You can't have mine. These girls are mine. But you need to find funny people who have the commitment and the desire to work on the craft of humor and not just let it happen by accident. I'm going to let each woman introduce herself and talk about when she first realized that she was funny and how it played out in her personal life in just a sentence or two, and then how she's used humor in her career in just a sentence or two. And then after that, I've got a series of questions that I'm going to ask these women, and we're sort of going to do it round robin, so each one gets a chance to answer and comment on it. And we're going to try to keep this going at a fast clip and answer it as succinctly as we can. But if we go down a road that I see as very valuable in teaching somebody how to add humor and how to use it, then I'm going to sort of let that play out, if you will. So I'll start. Let's see. Oh, I forgot the question already. Okay. I was always the funny kid. I was the picked on kid. So I didn't choose to be funny. I was just equipped with a sense of humor. It was how I dealt with it. Did not realize that it would become a career, that I'd become a comedian. When I became a writer, I realized people, and I morphed into being a storyteller, and I realized people love to laugh. And so I was doing it naturally. It was showing up in my writing, and I began to study how to do it on purpose. Okay, I'm breaking my rule of being succinct. That morphed into humor being a big part of what I do on stage. Getting laughs as a keynote speaker is very valuable for me, and my success is in direct ability to how much I can make people laugh. So there you go. Now, just so we can, I don't know if everybody's laid out on the screen, but Amy, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm Amy D. And I was a scrawny little kid covered in freckles. And my mom cut my hair in like a modified crew cut. So I knew the only thing going for me was being funny. So I was sort of the class clown and the neighborhood clown. And then I was in theater for many years, and I love playing character actresses. And so they would be the funny actresses. And then I did some stand-up comedy, and it was I kind of morphed into speaking many years ago. And humor, I think there's so much power. I guess that's it. When people are laughing and the audience is laughing, you just feel so much power. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Okay, let's go, and we'll keep this order going. Carrie, why don't we go to you next, and then we'll go up to Lisa.
Hi, I had the same childhood that Kelly did and every comedian. I'm a professional stand-up comedian, so obviously humor is how I feed my children. And that came to me somewhere along the lines of my mid-20s when I was just sort of an actress in Hollywood, and being the control freak that I am, I wanted to take more control of my career. And I had a light bulb moment that I could write things and that people would listen to me, and if they laughed, it would work out well. And the first time I took the stage, it's like Richard Pryor, famous comedian, used to say that stand-up comedy is the same rush you used to get from doing hard drugs, because like Amy said, there's power in taking a room full of people and making them laugh and knowing that you were the one that did that. So it is literally a part of my everyday life, and it is a part of my career, and I guess it's just something I can't live without.
Awesome. Okay, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Mills. I am a comedian as well. I'm stand-up just like Carrie. And so, well, not just like Carrie. I have red hair and a few more pounds. But I do love her. She's precious. But I started doing stand-up several years ago when I realized that, well, I've always kind of had a knack. I grew up the same way, poor childhood, that kind of thing, just like Kelly. And so humor was more of a self-medicating, if you will. I would self-medicate with humor. It's how I got by, deflecting, that kind of thing. A lot of comedians have that story. So when I got older, I realized that I had this, I hate to use the word gift, but I don't know what other word to use, Kelly. I had this ability, there you go, I had this ability to take a room full of people and drive them toward leadership or impact them in some way or inspire them some way. I had that ability. And most of the time I noticed it was most effective when I did it through laughter. And so I was speaking and doing that sort of thing. Well, I had an opportunity doing PR and events where someone said, hey, we need a comedian in the spot. Lisa, I think you could do that. And so I stood on stage and I did 10 minutes of stand-up comedy and that I had written the night before, and I did it on stage the next day, and I've been on the road ever since. And so that's kind of how I got into it. It was kind of by accident that I got into stand-up comedy. But so that's kind of my story. That's kind of how that happened for me.
Okay. I want to ask a question too. So we all came at it because we were funny and we loved to make people laugh, and it was natural. And so it was kind of natural for us to go down the road where we would have careers that involved that. Let's throw this question out to the table. How important is it, do you think, in just a sentence or two, answer, how important is it, do you think, for people who want to impact and influence, to connect and engage, to use humor? Is it just something that, how important do you think it is? Amy, what do you think?
I think it's really important. I think if you want to impact and engage people, you have to engage their emotions. And I think it's a really not easy, but it's a really pertinent emotion to engage humor. So I think they'll remember things if you tell a funny story. Yeah, I think it's critical. And plus, if they're sitting
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I also wanted to say, because I didn't answer it too, I think no matter what we're teaching, no matter what our content, no matter what we're trying to do, you better be able to entertain them and engage them first. You have got to get their attention. You cannot get up if your platform is a stage and go, I'm just going to tell them everything they need to know. People say, I'm not an entertainer. Well, you don't have to be an entertainer, but you have to be entertaining and you have to be engaging. So humor helps you do that. Carrie, what's your take on it?
I think that humor can break down the walls that an audience may have preconceived notions about you. The number one rule of comedy is make fun of yourself, not your audience. And if you, especially as a woman, if you walk on stage as a woman, you have to win over all the other women in that audience first. And then the men will follow because they just are going to be doing what the women are doing. And I mean, that's in comedy, I assume, in speaking too. And if they have notions of what you're going to be by the way you look, and you say something completely awkward about yourself, it breaks their guard and they start to engage you.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. We have to, I hear speakers say all the time, you need to go in there, you need to be the expert, you need to be the one on the pedestal. And I'm like, no. In my case, I want to be the one that feels like I'm the one sitting in the chair beside them. So if a woman comes in and she looks like Barbie, like you do, Carrie, then yeah, the first thing you want to do is combat that arms crossed, whatever barrier there is, and make it feel like, oh, you're just one of us. Lisa, so what's your take on this?
Well, I think comedy does many things like that. You want to be able to be relatable. That's the first thing. There's only one thing that you and an audience, I don't care if you're doing stand-up or speaking, there's only one thing that you have in common. I've heard that through NSA many times, is you have the audience's best interest. That is the one place where we can all meet together in the room. I don't care where you're from, what the culture is, what the differences are. If you have their best interest in mind, and of course they have their own best interest in mind, that's where you relate at. So you go to that place and you find humor there. And that is the place of relatability. If we can find something relatable, that, I've heard it said, comedy is the only sword that doesn't draw blood. You can correct through comedy. You can inspire through comedy. If it's all relatable, we can apply it and walk in it. Whatever the joke is, if it's relatable. So yeah, you can get a lot done with comedy. I think it's not just something that you want to have. I think it's absolutely a necessity.
I do too. Which brings me to my next question, because we've seen people try to be funny and watch them bomb and it be miserable. And so a lot of people think, well, I just can't be funny. I don't know. They're not funny. They don't know how to be funny. So they're going to disconnect right away because they think this isn't an option for them. So the next question I have is, can humor be taught? And I'll answer it. I'll give my take, and then we'll move on and round robin and see. This is how I answer the question. I don't know if you can be, I think the focus shouldn't be on make me funny or make my speech funnier. I think for some people it's, okay, I'm not answering that. It's focus on fun. You might not be able to be a comedian. We might not be able to make you a comedian, but we can add more fun. When you focus on the word fun, it frees you up to be a little looser and be a little more humorous. I think you can teach people when in the beginning I was funny, no question about it, but it was raw. It was natural. Going to be funny on purpose is a completely different beast, writing it and learning it. So I do think you can take a raw talent and make people funnier, but I think there's some people you're not going to be able to take them to that point, but you can give them ways to add humor to their presentation or to their story, and get, in my opinion, any way you get the laugh, you get the laugh. So that's my cluttered explanation. Let's see what y'all think. Amy, what do you think? Can humor be taught?
I wouldn't know how to teach humor. I wouldn't know how to begin. I think if you can laugh at someone else and you can find humor in someone else, I think you can probably be funny. I think that you can be, if you could see humor in the world. So
all right.
I wouldn't have any idea how to teach it. I think timing and all that. I do think when you're doing something like that, you have to be in with the audience. You don't stand there like you're giving your speech. You have to be in with them and watch the reactions and be a part of the audience. And so, yeah.
Okay. Carrie, what do you think? Can it be taught?
There's a great quote that says, people say funny things and comedians say things funny. I'm never going to be able to teach you how to come up with funny things, but time and time again, I can teach you how to fake it on stage really well. Like if you've got a speech and you want to add humor and you find somebody that says, can you give me an opening joke? And we rehearse that opening joke 100 times, you're going to go out there and look like a pro. So there's always a way. It doesn't mean that you're a funny person, but your audience doesn't have to know that. So there's ways to add humor into your presentation without making you a comedian.
That's good.
Lisa, what you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And back to what Amy was saying, I agree with both of those points and what you were saying as well, Kelly.
But you don't agree with my point?
Well, it's a little, No, I do. Absolutely. Here's what I think. I think, like what Amy was saying, to be funny, you're going to have to know funny. You're going to have to appreciate funny. You're going to have to be the person who gets the joke. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you get punchlines, you understand humor, you appreciate it, you like it, you enjoy it, and then that person can deliver. There are some people who just don't. They don't get humor. But like Carrie was saying, there are techniques. You can teach just about anything. You can teach a technique.
There are professional comedians that Lisa and I both know that still don't get humor. We just haven't told them. They've been doing it 20 years.
Right. But you can teach some technique that would help someone on stage. You can teach a technique that would get somebody through a moment. But to teach somebody, I think we're given a sense of humor, and that's kind of innate. And so, I don't know. Maybe I'm on the fence on that. Some people believe you can teach it and some don't. I think you can teach technique, but you can't teach somebody to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, let's jump to another question then. Let's just say somebody's got to give a presentation and they don't have the time to go learn how to tell jokes, and is there an easy way to throw in some humor into something? And let's be broad. It can be a story, it could be a speech, it could be a sales presentation, it can be a PowerPoint thing you're giving, it can be the first chapter of your book. Is there an easy way to add humor if you're not that funny? And I'll start because I think there are, and then I'll go to Carrie because I think I think you could funny pictures in a PowerPoint. I see a lot of speakers grab those funny pictures and use funny pictures instead. You don't have to have created it yourself. You need to own it, but you can use funny pictures, funny videos. Some speakers will do. And sometimes it's not a matter of finding a way to insert jokes. It's just inserting levity. Is that the right word? I will also say telling people what you're thinking. When you have those funny, wild, assuming it's not dirty or, offensive, but you have those funny little quirky comments that you have in your head. You can do that in a story, in a speech. We do it in conversation. You got this little ironic thing you're saying, and you just can throw it out there. And that's sort of a way to add humor if you're not that funny. I may think of other ones, but let's see what y'all have to say. What are just some quick how to add humor when you're not that funny? Amy, what's up?
I don't really tell jokes. I tell stories of funny things that have happened to me. So I think I always have weird things going on in my life. And if you're self-deprecating a little bit and tell about something embarrassing that happened, or I think. Like
what? Give me an example. What are you talking about?
Like, like my signature story is I get stuck in a dress. So a lady says, "Oh, are you a size 15, 16, the sales lady?" And I tell her, no, I'm ticked at her. So I said, no, I wear a size 5, 6. I get the dress in the dressing room, I pull it over my head and I'm stuck. And I think the reason that's funny is, one, it did happen. 2, it's happened to a lot of other people. So I think when you find that common thread, we all have kind of similar, put your thong on wrong or whatever we do.
Like every morning. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Amy's got a whole song about putting on her thong on wrong. It's hysterical.
That's beautiful.
Okay. Carrie, what you think?
And Amy, is there really a wrong way to wear a thong? Really, it's just.
It was a one-time deal for me because it hurts. So, yeah.
Fashion is painful. Kelly, the reason I was laughing is because what we've both been talking about recently, you and I, is I was like, find a funny person and invest in helping them write a joke for your speech. How I came to you and I said, I need to learn speech writing. I know comedy, but I don't know speech writing. And I made an investment in hiring a coach. I think you could hire a comedy coach to help you go over your speeches, and it would be a worthwhile investment. I think if you're looking, I guess that may be for more like professional speakers, but hey, find that funny friend and take them out for coffee and be like, hey, can you give me an opening line? That's all you need, is an icebreaker opening line and a good closer. Go on the internet. You're speaking for nurses. Look up funny nurse jokes. It could be a stock joke, but it could be funny to nurses. I don't care if you got it off YouTube. Use it. If it works, great.
I love that too. I want to say that too, because I helped Carrie with her speech writing and with her storytelling. And then she looked at my jokes and there was something in me that felt like I'm not allowed to get somebody else to help me write my jokes. That's cheating. And she's like, no, it's not cheating. A lot of people have their jokes written for them. So having somebody else, and it was so easy for her, just like it's easy for me to look at a story and see where all the words go. She was able to look at it and go, oh man, funny line, funny line, funny line, funny line. And in minutes or hours, really, she spent a lot of time on it.
I'll never tell.
And she was able to give me more jokes than I'll ever have time to use. So that's a good point. And they, what do they call it? Somebody to punch up your material.
It's we call it. People do it in Hollywood all the time. People do it. They're corporate head CEOs. They have comedian people that come in and it's punch up their material. Books too, business books. People come in and add pop culture to make them more relevant. They might have been giving a speech for 10 years and they're like, I need to add something culturally relevant. I'm speaking to millennials today. So stuff like that.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Lisa, what would you have to add? How to add humor if you're not that funny?
I think if you're not that funny, you're going to have to find someone who is.
Amen, girl.
Whether it's a friend or whether it's the internet or I don't care where you get it, you're going to have to find somebody, because when you're telling a joke, you're telling anything that's supposed to garner a laugh. Whether you call it humor, stand-up joke, humorous, whatever. Whenever you're doing that, whatever you're saying, whatever's coming out of your mouth, you're creating an image in your audience's head immediately. That's why when it's inappropriate, that's why that garners that kind of a laugh. But so what we're doing is our words are creating an image, and it's instant. It's an instant thing. You're thinking what I'm saying. That's why a picture or a video works so well also. So if you can't use it with your own words, you can't use it with your own material, find a video, because what you're trying to do is have the listener create an image in their own mind that's going to make them laugh. And so if you can't do that through your words, find a picture or video. Yeah, Carrie.
And Lisa used the word appropriate. And let me just say this, it's so important. If you're going to use a joke in a public space, try it out on someone that you trust, because the word appropriate is very important when it comes to humor and who you're speaking to. And we have to be very careful about being offensive, and try it out on somebody that you trust in that market to go, would this offend you if I told this joke?
Right.
I'll always tell people that I love being a speaker, because if it's not funny, then I pretend like it wasn't supposed to be.
Right.
Because I'm not required. I'm not in a comedy club, so
Right.
I'm not being measured by how many laughs I get a minute. And I'm not being measured. They're not coming in with that judgment of you better be funny. They're not understanding when there's supposed to be a joke or when there wasn't. So that makes me happy, because then every joke doesn't have to be punch them in between the eyes. And we all know what's funny to one person is not funny to another person. So you can get 80% approval on a joke, but you're still going to have people like, I didn't think she was that funny, but you just act like it wasn't supposed to be funny. And it's just on that what do you call it? That melody of a speech that has highs and lows and ups and downs. And I love that for myself, that I'm not gauging it on, is this the funniest thing I've ever heard? No, I'm a speaker. I'm having a conversation. It doesn't always have to just be over the top funny. And that leads me to my next question. Because I think there are some topics that universally, if I need to go create some jokes there, and I think universal is the key word here, where you can go straight to that premise and create jokes around that, certain topics. For example, and I'll start and then we'll go around and see what y'all think about are generally funny premises. Being married. My marriage stuff goes over better than any of my other jokes, because every doggone person in that audience knows what it feels like, or probably, to be in a relationship. So marriage is one of my biggest areas or relationships for humor. I'll go around and see what y'all have to say. Amy, do you think there's some topics that are funny or easy go-to places?
Miscommunication can be funny. And I said that before, but embarrassing moments, whenever I have.
Yes.
Because then I know I can turn
Yes.
something. Yes, there you go. So I think those work. And I think any relationship, I mean, you talk about marriage, but it can also be your relationship with your mother or your teenager rolling their eyes, just so people can identify with it. So.
Yes.
Carrie, what you think?
I think fish out of water stories are always funny. And I'm just like Amy. I mean, you're having the worst experience of your life and you're crying. And in the back of your head, if you're a comic, you're going, this is going in my act. And it could be traumatic. And, I visited a Korean day spa, and I was sort of mentally and physically abused by these Korean women. And then I paid the money. But the whole time, I'm like, this is gold. This is gold if I could get over my therapy, So that's how our minds think. It's not right. We're very twisted. But, it's kind of like all the world's a stage.
Describe for me, Carrie, if you'll explain that phrase one more time, just so I can get it. What do you mean when you say a fish out of water experience?
When I am the Irish Catholic girl and I went to sign up to get a spa treatment at the Korean day spa, and I didn't realize that they made me get naked. I did not know what naked means, Nekeh. And I walked into a naked sea of Korean flesh, just staring staring at me like I was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, like the whole time. And it was just the fish out of water. Like I didn't belong there. And there was so much comedy in pain. Pain breeds comedy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's I think that's right, a place you don't normally belong. This is kind of a side note from that, but it makes me think of when I create funny characters, I put character traits that don't belong together. A big football player who cries at Lion King. The Sunday school teacher who's out drinking and smoking cigarettes behind the church, yelling at all the kids. You know, when you put together things that don't make sense together in characters, that makes for really funny characters. But I get, Carrie, you were helping me work on a joke. I'm going to Wisconsin this week. And what a great, the Southern girl going to Wisconsin. It's just so easy of, you know, you're not from around here. Do you always talk like that? You know, no, sometimes I have an accent. You know, you can just play around with, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that anybody listening really understood that fish out of water is a good analogy. I'll also think when I'm doing a story of, and I don't know how to apply it, but like things that wouldn't happen in a church, you know, things you don't do in that setting.
Irony.
Huh?
Irony.
Yeah. So, and I can't think of one context of a setting, but when I'm creating a story in a funeral, what are things you're not likely to see at a funeral? You expect people to come dressed. You don't expect somebody to come bringing a 6-pack.
Right.
I mean, see,
We're
that's fun.
pretending Catholics, you know.
Well, I was going to say it may be in the South. So, Lisa, what's your take on that? Are there some topics that are funnier than others?
I do. I think I agree with you guys. I think that anything that's relatable is super funny because that's the point where you can have the most humor is where we can find the place to come laugh together, to share a laugh. And so when you're going to share a laugh and you can provide that environment, they can get in on the joke because they've been there too. Like Amy was saying, we've all been in that dressing room, like what Carrie was saying, fish out of water. I will say probably what I'm known for is writing a lot about my life. You know, they say, you know, Kelly, you've said it too, writers or comics or whatever, the saying is you just open up a vein and bleed. You know what I mean? Like you let people know your life. You bare your soul on stage. Well, and so I do that a lot. I take a lot of very uncomfortable things growing up in poverty and that kind of thing and a lot growing up on a dirt road trailer park with a single mama, and I make a lot of that funny. And so through that in my act, people are, because, you know, it's everybody's stereotype. It's the trailer park, the South, that kind of thing. But when you can put a new spin on it that's authentic to you, you know what I mean? And you only do that by bearing your soul up there and being authentic, then people love that because people not only love humor, they love authenticity because it's so rare. And so if your humor can be authentic, it's gold.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I want to ask a question, spinning off of that. What are some things we should not be making funny, or some landmines in terms of humor? Now, I'll start, and I'm going to assume that most of us are in a business setting or a politically correct setting, and so you need to be very careful when you're starting to go into, just like your mama told you, sex, politics, religion. You know, you got to, they're landmines. But I'll go around, and if I come up with something, I'll add to that because I'm not prepared to answer the question. But let's talk about some things you should not make fun of. Amy, what are some things you probably should stay away from?
I mean, I could just think of specific, like something I would tell to a friend because I'd be able to explain it better. It might be funny there. Like when I was growing up, we grew up in a really rough neighborhood, and some of the things that we did might be funny in that setting because I can explain it on stage. There's no way it would be funny. It would be maybe abusive, you know, I mean, that sort of stuff. So I think anything with child abuse obviously cannot be funny. It just can't. I think death is a tough one to pull off. And I think politics, I wouldn't touch that. And I just don't do dirty stuff. Well,
you can't in business. You're not going to get booked if you're blue.
No, it just doesn't work. And I don't like it. I think it's kind of a cheap way to get a laugh. So, yeah.
Okay. Carrie, well, what about you? What do you think?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I am a G-rated comedian that makes a lot of my living, 90% of it outside comedy clubs, it being really clean. But I push the envelope on every topic. I have gone to Lutheran Women's Financial Extension Funds and done sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know, I talked about, well, when I applied for eHarmony, they sent my money back. And they found that my quiz, I was bipolar. So then the church lady calls me, she goes, do you know the bipolar support group was sitting in the audience that day, you know? And I just, as a comic, and I'm gonna learn as I do more corporate speaking, I just find that it's not about the subject, it's the way you approach the subject. Like, you know, the church world that I work in is very taboo, you know, sex outside of marriage, but why not talk about sex? Like, you know what I mean? If you have a viewpoint of it, there's not of course, child abuse and the obvious topics, but like I have a line in my joke when I do churches, I go, I can't talk about politics because I'm a Christian, and they laugh, and I go, but if I wasn't, I would say this about Donald Trump, and then like say something humble, like cute. Yeah. So I think it's in your approach. I don't think that there's a lot of topics outside, of course, the violent and harmful ones that can't be approached in a very creative way, but that might take like years of practice.
I want to say something tagging off of that while I'm thinking about it, and then we'll go on to Lisa too. I think when people walk in a comedy club, there's an expectation. There's an understood expectation that when you go in a comedy club, this is what you're going to get, and if you can't handle it, you shouldn't have been in there. Now, if we're booked for a corporate event or we're booked for a women's event, we've got one client who is now needing to make sure that 500 people in this audience are not going to be offended. Mm-hmm. So we just have to keep that in mind, that that's where they're coming from is, you know, and Carrie, I'm like you, I push the envelope a lot. And I'll have ways to deal with it. I'll go, yep, now you know why my pastor prays for me all the time. Wednesday nights are just for me, you know, where I'll, you know, kind of at the end of the day, we all have to decide how far we're going to push. Because some women would not, I got a whole bit from the perspective of my boobs. And there's some women who will find that absolutely shocking. And why would she do that? You know, and it's just a judgment call. And at the end of the day, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do, and I have to be accountable for the fallback I get from that. There's not going to be a really right or way. Some women get more graphic than I do. Some use some swear words, you know. But Lisa, what do you have to say about that on what kind of stuff you shouldn't be doing on stage?
Yeah, you can ask 50 people and you're going to get 50 different answers, because what we find appropriate is relative. You know what I mean? That's like humor, you know, it's relative. So I have personally, I think you have to have some non-negotiables. I think, you know, like you said, you got to know where your line is and what you're willing to cross. And so I think for each person it's different. For me, and I can only speak for me, if it causes pain to somebody else, or it's about their pain that is still painful to them, then I don't make fun of it. And I'm saying pain is only funny when it's from a healed place. Pain is only funny when we talk about it. You know, I've heard many people say that. When you get up on stage and you can talk about pain and make humor out of it, if you're not healed, the audience is going to be awkward. They're going to feel it. They know it. It's going to be awkward. So it's only going to be funny. Pain can be funny if it's from a healed place, if you're on the other side of it. So I don't talk about anything that I haven't, and you know, other people have different, I'm sure Carrie, Amy may have a different perspective of that. I'm just speaking for me. So
I agree completely. Yeah,
and so I keep the same rule for myself, for the audience, that I keep for myself. If I see something in the audience, you know, as comics, we're always making fun of what's in the room. It's great because it lets the air out of the room. Everybody's seeing it. You pick it and all. But if somebody has some pain in the room, like if there's a handicap in the room or something like that, I think those things are just, I don't care what would get the laugh. We're not in grade school. This isn't middle school. We are grown people, and we're not just going for the easy laugh.
Now, what I'll tell you too, just I'm agreeing with everything you said. I'm not debating that. And just a little bit of pushback though, it's sometimes you're healed from it and they're not healed from it. I mean, it can get to where you could justify not doing anything.
No. I'm sorry. I'm gonna clarify that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if there's something, if I'm speaking to women empowerment from domestic violence, you know what I'm saying? Just because I'm, not that that's my story, but I'm saying if it was, just because I'm on the other side of it, Do you know what I mean? I have to take into consideration where they're standing at in the middle of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. And I'm also giving another flip side, a yes and, or another
Okay.
perspective is that at some point it's their issue, not mine.
Oh, sure. I
So
agree with that.
if I'm talking about, and it's a fight, you're just going to have to judge it yourself.
Right.
But there have been times when I've offended people.
Yeah.
And they've
Oh.
written me a letter and I'm like, oh, and I get all worried. And then I'll go to my friends and say, was this out of line? Was it inappropriate? And they'll go, no, this is
Right.
their issue. This is
Right.
not your issue. And we're not going to have any hard and fast answers. But the question comes up a lot from speakers is, how do I know if it's funny? And what's okay and what's not okay. I watched a man bomb in front of an audience. He was a storyteller because all of his humor was about what an idiot his wife was.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, I mean, we hated him by the time that it was over. And I'm thinking, okay, don't make fun of other people. Make fun of yourself. If you can make the joke on you, I never make my husband the idiot.
Yeah.
I'm not a husband basher. I'm the idiot in this equation. So enough beating about that. I want to get onto some formulas for putting humor together. Now, I don't come from the stand-up comedy world, so I don't know if my formulas are right or whatever, but an easy way for me to have to get humor, and there might be a word like redirect or something, but is to make you think I'm going to say something, but I say something else. Or even having it's one of my easiest go-to formulas is my husband and I have a date night. And what do we assume? And you take all the things you assume out of a bland statement like that. Oh, we assume you go together. So there goes the joke. My husband and I have a date night. I take Mondays. He takes Thursdays. So you can take almost, I have a line that says, today I went to the gym. Okay, well, I didn't exactly go in. No, wait, I tell people I joined the gym. And they're all like, oh, and I'm like, oh, I don't always go in. Mm-hmm. So you got to take the line, I joined the gym, and then I say, what does everybody assume about that statement? Well, they assume I go in. They assumed, well, whatever. And you can quickly find jokes when you go against that assumption. So that's one easy one for me. I want to see if y'all have an easy joke formula you can step into to help somebody, or just creating a funny formula. Amy, go.
You know, I don't do a lot of jokes. I do what you do if I'm doing a joke, but I really take a story and then I just, pull it out and I make funny bits into it. So something that may be happened in a moment. I mean, like when you get dressed up and you're looking really good and you're feeling good and you're in the car and you take that last look in the rear view mirror and you've got a great big chin hair hanging off, so stuff like that, but I'll pull it out, maybe add a character to it or a voice, the hair starts talking back. So mine's all built on kind of more story than.
Would you say, Amy, that a lot of your humor, and I know the answer because I'm asking because I know your humor, but one thing that makes that so funny is that you're inserting the emotions that you're having. You're not just telling me what happened, you're telling me what's going through your head, and you were brilliant at this, you are acting it out in every possible way that you're not telling me that story. You are in it, acting it out, showing me what it felt like to be in the dress. You're having a conversation with me.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Carrie, do you have a formula?
I learned the formula of joke writing from Judy Carter. And if anybody's listening right now and they want to get a book on how to write jokes, they should get the best book I've ever read. Is called The Comedy Bible.
Me too. I read it.
I was a very funny improv person, and she taught me the formula. And I'm going to teach you one quick thing that's in the book. You say these words. You know what's hard about? You know what's hard about being a Southerner in Wisconsin is y'all have such terrible accents. You know what's hard about being, whatever it is for you. You know what's hard about being, and you take what's impersonal to you. You know what's hard about being shorter than all my friends, or or an accountant when I'm bad at math. So you just write that words, you know what's hard about, that's your setup, and your punchline is what is hard about that. That's just one little thing. There's so many, but that's one little thing you can do.
And that's a good one because she had those attitude words, and I always add one extra, so I'm going to get it wrong. And that book, I wore it to pieces.
Yeah.
But what's weird, hard, scary, strange,
Right. You know what's weird about,
what's stupid? What's
Right.
stupid
It's
about
transactional.
voicemail?
It's
And
transactional.
And what she said was, which was so brilliant, I'm so glad you brought it up, was she said, the next step is to answer it.
Yeah.
You don't try to be funny. You just be truthful and you answer what's so hard about having big hair. Everybody thinks, you're a drag queen or whatever it is. You answer it, and then her formula takes you into making it funnier. Sometimes all you have to do is answer the question, and because people can relate and they're knocking each other, oh, that's so true, they're already finding it funny. Lisa, what do you think? Formula for a joke?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. Just from the world of stand-up, I agree with everything that Carrie was saying. Of course, we have a lot of the same reference point. I know for you and Amy as well. So yeah, anything that you can do that technique for. There's lots of techniques like we know that words that have a hard K sound in them, they're funnier. My friend Kay Dodd, she's an amazing writer, an amazing comedian. She's always saying, Lisa, specific is terrific, girl. Get it specific. So the more specific it is, the funnier it is. So there are techniques like that, and I know that they're in that the Comedy Bible as well. So yeah, that I would agree with all that. And from the world of stand-up, I kind of come from that reference point. So yeah. I agree.
I want to add something too, because it's a constant thing I see, and I know you ladies see it, and it's a constant thing I still have to remind myself, and that's the funny word goes last.
Yes.
The funny is at the end of a sentence, and I still do that.
I never thought about that.
I will sometimes put the joke in the middle, and then the sentence finishes it, and you want the punch is at the end.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of, they're not even jokes, but they're just funny lines. And I'll see, Kelly, you got the funny line buried here, and you need to get it. That part that makes it a surprise to them.
Right.
And the fewer, it's the same as in story. There's a lot of overlap in writing a good story and writing good comedy. Same as in story. The fewer words you can say to get to it, the funnier it's going to be. I mean, we've all heard people that no matter how funny that joke is, they added so doggone much to it that by the time they got to the end, the payoff wasn't worth it. So condensing it, crunching it, getting it in as few words as possible is a good way to go. I want to go, because we're doing great on time, and I want to go, let's just sort of open up our remaining time to just an organic conversation. Let's just start with, is there something burning on you that you want to say about these people that want to be funny, or some advice you wanted to give that's still hanging out there, and we'll just sort of follow that flow.
Yeah, I think if you're on the call, you're on the webinar today, and you want to be funny because you want to be more marketable, then you're going to have to work at it. Okay, but if you want to be funny because you like funny, you like humor, you like comedy, you want it to be more, your speech to be more relatable and organic in the room and have more of an effect, then I think you're definitely gonna have to not work, I don't think, as hard as the person who just wants it to be for the payoff for dollars. Does that make sense to you, Kelly? I think when you appreciate humor, and even if you're like, I'm not stand up, I can't do that. But if you want to be funny and you like funny, you can get funny.
I think also I want to tag off that, and then it looks like Amy had something to say. One thing I realized, and it's the same way with speaking, is that many speakers get up on a stage and they become somebody else. They brush up, they polish, and a speech is a conversation. It is it's a dialogue you're having with the audience. And I know I'm very performance based, so there's a lot of what I do that does feel like a performance. It's on purpose. But oftentimes what I'm trying to say is, if we could mess ourselves up a little bit, if we could come out there and not know what word we're going to say, and comment on the photo guy who's taking our picture, and trust that we can just be comfortable enough. I always say that I wish I could learn to be, I'm not all the way there on total comfort level, because when I get to total comfort level on stage will be the day that I just let everything fly, and I'm still not quite there. So in terms of being funny, a lot of people I know, again, I'm going to go back to fun instead of funny. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of speakers with really good personalities.
Mhm.
And that personality, if they would just bring it to the stage and give me their speech like that, they wouldn't have to worry about, do they have a joke here or a joke here, because they're naturally funny, energetic, lively people, but they've gone into some other mode when they get up there. So I think some of you trying to find your journey to funny can do that by simply going, I want you to be the person you are that I would meet at the cookout or at the PTA meeting or sitting at a girls' night. You might have to censor yourself a little bit, but I think that's a piece of it. Somebody wanted to pop in there. Did somebody have something they wanted to say?
Amy did.
I think you really do have to practice.
Yes.
It's so uncomfortable to see someone go up and it's like they're doing their stuff for the first time. I just hate it. And I also think if you're paid to speak, you better know they're expecting a different level. I mean, it's not amateur night. So I really think you go through and you work your story and retell it and tell it to friends and rework it and rework it and rework it and rework it. So
I want to ask you something about that, Amy, because, and then I know it feels like Carrie's got something to say. Because I'm agreeing with you, even though I just said wing it. I'm agreeing with what you say too, because I do think you should practice. But here's the thing too. I hear a lot of comics say, oh, Kelly, the joke doesn't get crafted until you work it out in front of an audience. And I say, excuse me, I don't get a chance to work it out in front of an audience. I better go in there and be at the top of my game. They don't get me for practice. They get me for it's been tested and it's going to be good. So where do we go?
So then I would say
to practice.
What audience? I mean, an audience can be, your group of friends, an audience can be, so I think you can determine that. I just think it's, you owe it to that audience to know what you're doing when you're up there.
Agreed.
I just think
agreed.
If you're paid to be up there, you better have it together. Yeah.
And I don't mean to sound whatever, but sometimes those free jobs or those low pressure jobs where you can go try out your new material. I mean, maybe some people can go into a comedy club or a story slam but there are sometimes those no pressure settings. Now I've been doing it enough where I can practice in my car or practice in my office and I'll know, okay, this feels like it's ready. I'm just saying, if anybody doesn't know, hey, I'm going to give a plug for Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a prime opportunity. I mean, that's enough reason for any professional to join anyway, because you can get up there in front of the safest environment ever and test this stuff and get feedback and just keep working through your material. I'm in Toastmasters now, and I'm taking stuff I've always been doing, and people are giving me a perspective I've never seen, and I've been doing the material for 15 years. So what else? What else y'all want to say? Carrie?
I will, I have two things that I do. I'll call comics that know I'm a comic, and I'll say, Lisa, do you think this is funny? And I'll tell her the story, and then she'll laugh organically or she won't. But then we talk about it. But I also, a million times, I call friends. They don't even know I'm trying out a bit on them. I'd be like, you're never going to believe what happened to me last night. They were doing that drinking and driving checkpoint, and they didn't want to check me. And the cop was like, yeah, because there's no way you've been to a party. And I'm like, how do you know? And he's like, because you have animal crackers on your face. And I tell the story like I'm talking to them, and I do it over and over and over to like anybody who will listen to me. And they just think I'm being Carrie on the phone, but I'm trying it out without the pressure. And it is so crafted. Like if you've been in a comedy show and a phone rings and that comic goes off on a riff about like, oh, is that your mother? It's been done 100 million times. And my comedian husband, he said, it used to take, he told it 250 shows on stage before you even know who you are. Like before you even get who you are on stage, and then another 250 to get you to the next level. So like whoever's listening to this, don't beat yourself up if you're just starting out and going, why can't I riff in the audience? I say, don't even talk to the audience yet until you're a seasoned speaker and you've got something, what we call your bag of tricks. You can pull out I came in late. I have a phone, and you should have a bag of tricks for anything that could happen. A heckler, a yeller, a crier, somebody who walks up and leaves in the middle of your act. You got to have a line for that. Not offensive.
Right.
But just
I'll
some,
always say, I just got a walking ovation.
yeah. Or I'll be like if I'm in a church and they come late, I'm like, oh, we were just sharing our worst sins. You're next, and like
Oh,
something that
funny.
they can laugh about. But it's so crafted. It's such to the word in stand up. And in speaker, you've taught me that, Kelly. It's down to the syllable where you're like, don't end that sentence there. Stop and take your moment. And comedy is no different.
Yeah, I think I always say a good speech, and I will extend this to comedy as well, is equal parts a good script and a good delivery. Sometimes this stuff, I'll see it on paper and I'll go, that doesn't look that funny, and then I'll see them deliver it and I'll go, okay, enough said. One thing I want to say too to people who are new at this, tagging off of what you just said, Carrie, is funny things are going to happen in your show that you didn't plan. Okay. And when they do, you run to your car when it's over and you write it down. And if you can make it happen again, do it. One example I'll give you is that photographers taking pictures of me. Okay. So here's a guy right up in my face in the middle of my speech taking my picture. So I posed. I didn't plan it. It just came out of me. I was comfortable. I was like, and everybody laughed. And so I went back and wrote that down, funny, and I made a mental note. So the next time when he did it, I was ready at another event. Same thing happens again. I did. Right. Everybody laughs, and I said, I know I'm making love to the camera. Bam, they laughed again. Another time. And it kept developing. And there are things that will happen that a noise. There will always be a noise. One time there was a noise and I like ducked and I was like, I'm sorry, my husband's a prepper. And everybody laughed. And so you start when you're new in the beginning and something funny happens, go write it down and kind of always have that in the front of your mind that because you can start having funny things added in or something that happens in a room. I've got, Carrie, you helped me write a joke about going to Wisconsin, and I'm going to talk about, if they think it's on location, it's funnier, So I'm going to have a joke about my accent, but I'm going to go tell them I ran into somebody in Wisconsin, the guy at the drugstore. I was there yesterday, coming into town, going into the CVS, and the little kid behind the counter gives me that look like, you're not from around here. And he's like, do you always talk like that? I'm like, no, sometimes I have an accent. And then I go into that joke. See, that makes it a little bit, we can take some of this stuff and craft it to fit the different audiences.
Yeah, I do want to add before we leave this topic and this question real quick. I'm kind of like what I think somebody alluded to that a minute ago, where we don't have, I don't do open mics. So I don't have a place to work out my new material. So like what Carrie said, I'll have to call comics that I trust, professionals that I know, plus I'll do those on my family just to see if it's naturally funny. But I will say this, when I have a new bit, because I do so much corporate and corporate as in, men, women, just a co-ed audience and all that kind of stuff and all. So you do that whether they're faith-based or not. So when you do that, people, like Amy said, are paying you good money. And so you need to bring a professional, tailored, polished, it needs to be great. So when all of your work is based like that, then you say, where do I work out new material? Well, what I do is I'll have a joke. Is that Jesus on the main line, Carrie? What are you doing here? You got a call, honey? Call him up.
We love you. You're funny no matter what, Lisa. We love you just the way you are.
So, so what I do is, and what many other conference speakers do as well, when you're doing stand-up, is you try it in the middle of your set. If you have a new joke, you have a new line, you want to sandwich it between something that is so tried and true and tested that if it falls flat or falls short or still needs developing, you're going to send it off with something funny and you're going to bookend it with something hysterical. So put it right in the middle. If you don't do open mics and story slams and all that, just put it where in between the middle of your set, just a little, or the middle of your speech or whatever. But you want to sandwich it between both things that have been tried and true and tested and always get the laugh. So there's that.
That's smart. I'm running into that where people are having me back and they heard I run into this all the time. They've heard all my good jokes. And so what I'm doing is, okay, I'm writing a whole new set of new jokes. And that is the biggest, scariest mistake. because none of it's tested, none of it's tried. I mean, it could bomb, and the smarter move would have been go add new jokes in to the current sets.
Yes.
I've got my jokes in modules by topic on marriage, and that's a great way. If any of you are putting together, just ignore that. If any of you, wait, that could be a booking. No.
Yeah. Look at that phone.
But if any of you are trying to put together comedy and whatnot, work it in small pieces. Premises. I have it based on topics: growing up in the South, being married, being a parent, working from home, trying to lose weight, not smart. All these areas, and I can keep making them bigger and bigger, and working in new marriage jokes and whatnot. It's a scary. Don't go put a brand new thing start to finish in front of an audience. Lisa, that's a great tip. Weave in those new jokes. And if you've got a lot of, and again, we're speakers. Nobody's going to say joke 2 wasn't as good as joke 27 wasn't as good. If you bookend it, the beginning and the end are the most important pieces. You can't afford to mess those up. You can bury stuff all the way through there and just totally test out stuff.
Yeah, Carrie is brilliant at that. She's helped me learn that. I promise you, Carrie is an amazing performer and an amazing writer. She gets the most out of one line of any comic that I know. Like, she can take a line. I hope you guys have a frame of reference for what I'm trying to say. She can take a line that's funny and she can milk that thing like Amy was talking about. She can milk that thing and tag it and pull it and stretch it till it's like cellophane you can see through. She gets the most mileage out of one laugh. It's incredible, and she's taught me how to do that. So when you start with a small laugh and you're like, gosh, that's such a great joke, Carrie, people like Carrie, you call someone who's professional like Kelly or Amy or myself and learn how to add more in it, exaggerate it, make it build and stretch it, and you end up with a whole bit instead of one joke. So, start small with a joke and then exaggerate and pull that thing out. And, you end up with a whole bit.
Okay, because that's something I could learn, because I am guilty of taking, like marriage. Mm-hmm. And, okay, there's my 4 marriage jokes. So what you're saying to do
is that for each marriage that you've had, or?
Yeah. Each husband. So what you do then is, what you're saying is, go look at that line again, because I look at it like it's finished and I need to go write another one. I'm messing up there. I need to go.
Kelly, so we call that a tag, and I feel like that's where if you know somebody who does time, they can help you. Now the second line better be funnier than the first line, and the third line better be funnier than the first and the second combined. Right. So it's tough. That's kind of like more an advanced thing. Amy, I'm sure you do that. It's like, you just have to know, are they laughing more and more and more? Now go watch a Comedy Central special. Go watch some of the greats, the Jerry Lewis's, the Dean Martins, the greats. See how they do it, but don't, and we could talk about this at a later in another kind of seminar, but it's possible to do it. It's very crafted, that second line is bigger and better than the first line.
I think Carrie, for someone who is naturally funny and a really good comedian, when you get someone laughing, you just don't want to let it go. It's like a dog with a toy. You're going to keep that tug of war going. And so most of the times at our barbecues and our living rooms, we're doing it all the time. If you're naturally funny, you're like, oh, I'm not going to let them off easy. And you just milk it and you just let it keep going.
I was trying to think of an example of that, and I just thought of one. Like I said, I wish you could meet my kids. They're in the car. Laugh, laugh, laugh. It's okay. I rolled down the window. Laugh, laugh, laugh. It's okay. They'll text me. Laugh, laugh, laugh. So it's kind of like, you give them a moment to breathe, and then you say that thing under your breath. Then you give another moment to breathe, and you say that thing. You give them a moment, but not too much. And that's sort of like, we all know, the art form of storytelling and the art form of comedy. It's Kelly, you and I were just talking about that in speech writing. Give them the moment to breathe and take it in. And if you go too fast, they won't keep up with you, and they'll miss your funny.
Yeah. And another beautiful thing about this profession, or using your words for impact and influence, is that you get to find where you want to fall in all this. Some of us we're going to work every formula. We're going to craft this. We're going to spend an obscene amount of time working on our craft. And that's where we fall into it. And then others are going to find what their style is. I know people who they don't have a script, but they're funny at bantering with the audience. Amy, your songs are great. And I want to just talk just a couple of minutes before we leave, and then we'll wrap it up, about your silly songs, because there's not a formula there. There's not but they're funny and effective. Share with us an example. You don't have to like sing the song, of some of the songs you do on stage, because she brings her guitar up here. So are you confused? That is you that sings, isn't it?
Yeah, it's me.
Like your thong song. Tell us about that.
So I started with the story about the thong, and I thought it'd be fun to add a little parody song. So I think when I'm writing it, I first have to have a theme. So then I find rhyming things and put it, to some sort of music. That's my formula.
Yeah. And give us a couple of lines.
For giving us the secret formula.
Yeah.
Give us
Formula.
sing a couple of lines. She can't tell the story. It's hysterical about recap the story and then just sing a line or two of the song. I just want to show somebody the different variety.
First time I try on a thong, open the package, no directions, no idea how to put it on, and I'm going to be teaching that morning at a grade school. So that's a great time to try on a thong, is when you're, teaching in front of a group of 8-year-olds. And so I start that morning in class, and 20 minutes into the class, I'm in so much pain, I can't stand it. I am sweating, I can't stand it. I have to excuse myself from the room. I walk down the hallway hanging onto the wall. Looks like I had Chardonnay for breakfast. I have to go into the little kids' bathroom, and they run out screaming, "Stranger danger, stranger danger." I go into the stall, little tiny toilet, take my pants down, and sure enough, I put the thong on wrong.
Wow.
And I go into little bits about that. And then the song is called Wrong Thong Blues. So it's wrong thong blues. Lots of people have them. Wrong thong blues. The pain shoots through my brain stem. Me and you are subject to thong blues now and then. Because when you lace a panty through your fanny, you'll have some pain there, my friend. It's not what I'd recommend.
Wow.
And she takes a song that already exists.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Broadway songs or old songs or something, and then I
changes the words. And I've done that, and I'm not a musician, so people should have hope listening. I'm not a musician. I can't sing, and boy, I wish I need to spend more time on it and make it better. But I took like the fairy tale song, and someday my prince will come, someday I'll find true love, and a moment that moment will be when the love of my life says to me, shoot, babe, you're not exactly what I'd pictured, and I have all these, and I just took little fairy tale lines. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference crap, I can't remember how it went, but I just took little silly lines and changed them to be silly. And I can't even sing, and I sing anyway because it gets the point across.
And you don't have to do an entire song. I mean, you can honestly that's what makes that entertaining piece so fun, is that you can just throw in a couple lines or two and be done with it. It doesn't have to, you don't have to, my thong song and a lot of songs I don't even use my guitar or my ukulele. I don't even bother because it takes too much time. I just break into song, and it's funny. It's fun.
Yeah. And some people, I think that's a great to add those music to it. And here's what you're doing. You're playing.
Right.
When we get to that place where we're just deliciously playing on stage and being this, whether it's a show you created and a character you created. Oh, I will say this too, and gosh, I could talk all day about this. I'll take my personality. I think every speaker is a personality up there. And just like, of course, every comic is it has a shtick or a whatever, a character, a persona. And I will take and it took some digging because I thought I was normal when I was a beginning speaker. I thought there's bland, there's nothing about me. And so I had to go look at what's weird about me. What's kind of quirky? And I would ask my family and friends, what do you think? And they're like, oh my God, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you love fake hair, and you raised up on lard, you never met a chicken wing you didn't like. And I started thinking about all these things, and I started tapping into what my personality is, and this quirky, and I began exaggerating it on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been that only came out in the last year or so, where I'm getting that attention as a ham, and I'll exaggerate the facial expression, or I act sillier. It's still me, it's still my personality, but I'm really tapped into who is this crazy person they brought in. She's the big one with the big laugh, the one with all the makeup and the hair. I really understand, if my life were a sitcom, what my character is. And I think as speakers, when we're telling our stories, when we're using humor about ourselves, when we can understand who this personality is we're bringing to the stage and play it up. I mean, you could just be dry and not funny at all, and one person said that they're in their speech, they're OCD and everything's anal, and and I was like, oh my gosh, then you need to go out to the audience, and you need to first tell them, I'm a little OCD, I like everything in its place, and then you walk down and you arrange their pieces of paper on their table, and then you go back up. You can do little things that play into your personality. So that's also a piece of it I wanted to add. Closing thoughts. We will do a round robin, a round robin of final comments from everybody, and then I'll sign us off. Amy, what do you want to close by saying?
So I would say, I think, if it's your story, then you're not cheating and you don't have to worry about using someone else. So I would say use your own stories. And the other thing about that is it really brings authenticity to your speech. So the funny things that happen to you, as long as it's something other people can identify with. We all screw up. We all make mistakes. We all look foolish. They love that moment where you will tell them, this is what I did, because they're thinking, I could have done that too, or I did that too. Or so I love that authentic piece. I really want to be me on stage. And I think, that's the best advice I can give about being funny.
You sober.
Me sober.
There's some parts of people we shouldn't let out. I always say, when you get up on stage, be you, unless you, and then you go be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Carrie, on to you. Closing thought.
Just remember that the first time you tell that joke to that audience, it's the first time they've heard it. And you've been telling it for 12 years, and you put on your actor face. You're not only a speaker, you're an actor, and you give 100% effort. Like, it is the funniest thing they have ever heard. I don't care if you think that it's old and tired. I sometimes pull out jokes that I did literally like a decade ago, and I forgot about it. And they die, and I'm like, it's funny to them because they've never heard it. It's funny to them because they've never heard it. And the other thing is, it doesn't have to be like when you said, oh, you're zany, and you're like, what Kelly is does not have to be who you are. Find you, be you. Like, I used to be like sweet and adorable on stage, and now I'm over 40 and I have 2 kids, and I'm just like an angry, I'm like an angry preacher. I'm like an angry gospel preacher. And the longer I do life, the more angry I get, and people laugh because a lot of things piss me off, And so I'm like, the people have at Comedy Central, they go, we love that character you do, that dumb ditzy girl. And I was like, no, that's okay, sure. Yeah, that's a character. But just be you and exaggerate that 10 times. Don't try to be Kelly or Lisa or Amy. Be you.
Yeah. Lisa, closing thoughts.
I think just to speak and just to add, because there's been so much added, but to add to Amy's and to add to Carrie's, I'll say this, especially when you're singing on stage, but commit to the bit, whatever it is. And Carrie has said this to me many times. We're on the road together a lot, and she'll say, all right, Lisa, this line right here, you got to go out and get it. You got to own it. Like what you just said, you're out there and you're going to grab it. You got to go get it and own it and commit to it. So you're not looking at the faces. You're not listening. to hear if anybody's growing. You're just out there and you just go and you do it. And so Carrie is just always taught me that, and as we've worked together, you just commit to the bit. And that leads back to what Amy was saying. For a long time, I thought, how can I do this? When I started speaking, I thought, how can I do this? I'm not eloquent. And this is what I've learned. You don't have to be eloquent. You have to be authentic. Yeah. People want authentic, whether it's your speaking, whether it's your comedy. People want to know because they want to trust. And if they feel like they can trust you and they can like you, that all comes from a place of authenticity. So if you're selling it, they'll be buying it.
Amen, girl. Get it, girl.
Amen. Okay, now I forgot something, so let's go around one more time. And if you're comfortable, if not, don't worry about it. Telling us your website or a place where, if you're open to new friends and staying in touch with people, where they can go find you. I'll end it off. So we'll start with, if you want to send them to your Facebook page, if you have a website they can go check out, then let's do that in case some of these people want to go find you. Amy?
My website is www.amydspeaker.com. It's spelled D-E-E, and Amy D-E-E is my Facebook. So bye.
Awesome.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Carrie?
I have an extremely unhealthy relationship with Facebook, which means I will answer you 24 hours a day and drop whatever I was doing with my kids. Like I don't even know you. I have stalkers that I have a better relationship with than I do with my friends. So you can find me at Kerri, Kerri, Palm.com, and that'll direct you to my Facebook. And I strongly need attention. So I don't have any boundaries. So you should, putting that out there. KerriPalm.com. Bar mitzvahs, parties, whatever. I'll be at NSA this summer. I'll be the one following Kelly around, being like, I'm with her.
Lisa?
Oh, the only girl I know that can make stalking a pastime and a business.
Oh.
It's good work if you can get it, girl. But I'm in the middle of, as you know, Kelly, of launching a rebranding and a new site and all that. But for right now, Lisa Mills Speaks. It's going to look a lot different, but I have a wonderful marketing and media company working on that right now. But LisaMillsSpeaks.com is where you can reach me through my website. And then Lisa Mills Comedian Speaker, of course, on Facebook and, Twitter and all that good stuff. So, yeah, let's connect. Let's be funny.
Wonderful.
Come to Oregon this weekend and see me and Lisa together.
Yeah.
Drop what you're doing and just go to Medford. April.
Okay. You might have lost the concept that this is a training video that's
Oh, yeah. Well, in general, we could be in Oregon at any moment, Kelly.
Yeah, tomorrow could be 2020 before
you don't even know. We could be at Oregon. We could move there. We don't know what's going to happen.
You could. And hey, I love Oregon. They should go anyway, and it'll give you more exposure as they're going, where's Lisa?
We're going to.
They sent us here.
I have to tell you, Kelly, we're going to this gig all weekend, but the most exciting part of it is that we're going to this famous cheese shop, and they asked Lisa to do a breakout session Saturday afternoon, and I told them she wasn't available and not interested, so we could go cheese shopping. We're already doing that priorities.
Oh, that's funny. I'm going to be in Wisconsin. I'm going to be in the land of cheese.
Yes, you will.
So let me wrap this up. And I want to thank you, the people on the call today that came to join us, and anybody listening in the future. But especially, I just want to thank you, Lisa and Amy and Carrie. You are the funniest females that I know. And it's just that you would take time out of your schedule and sit here and teach us what you know. There was so much in this amount of time that people can, if they go apply any of it, it could make a big difference. I hope that we can do this again. Each and every one of you really has a lot to share with us about how to be funny and how to have our words be more authentic and powerful. So thank everybody for joining us on this funny time out as we took a deep dive today on humor. If you need help crafting your words to have more power, to work on your 3 stories of impact, or to learn how to craft or tell your story in an authentic, powerful way, then we would love to have you join us at Story Crafting Camp. The website for that is www.storycraftingcamp.com. It's the perfect blend of training, live feedback, personal coaching, and a small group atmosphere where you can find your voice and tell your story. And as usual, I'm so thankful for all of you who are taking this training and who are investing in yourselves and the power of your words. It's an honor to be your story tutor. So go out there, find your voice, and tell your story. Your story, make an impact. I'm Kelly Swanson, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.